Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks very much for joining us for our weather update for Wednesday, August 24 across New Zealand, Australia and the South Pacific Islands. And we've got two big features on the map today. Number one, a deepening low pressure zone in the Tasman, and that's moving towards New Zealand. It's only deepening for the next 24 hours, it then starts to fall apart. So that's the good news. Over in Australia, the second main feature is this huge area of high pressure, and it is huge. It is sending up a wintry southerly all the way up, not just to the northern part of Australia, but right up to Papua New Guinea. So it's quite a significant southerly when it travels that far, and that's why we're seeing frost now moving in, although showery weather before the frosty weather comes on through. We've got a bit of rain over the next 24 hours in New Zealand. In fact, over the next 48 hours. This is just the first snapshot showing where the main focus is through until early Thursday morning, and that's over here on the west coast. As we go through Thursday, you'll be seeing rain spread further around the country, but the dark blue you see here is just a couple of showers. So the main focus is on the west coast, where you're talking about 70 or 80 millimetres up in the mountains, and then that will fall as snow. As much as half a metre on some of the mountain tops, but for the most part, you're in that green-blue area, which is 10 to 15 centimetres of snow coming through. So that's good news for the ski fields of the South Island, not much for the north, sorry. And over in Australia, as I just mentioned, showers sort of along that southern coastline, especially down here around about 10 millimetres. But this is sort of a new sign of rain moving up around the Cairns area. Only about 30 or 40 millimetres, but still worth keeping an eye on. Could be just some heavy falls along the coastline. It's been pretty dry up there for the last wee while. So here we are on Thursday. You can see that low in the Tasman. That's about as big and deep as it gets. It's moving in later into Thursday afternoon with a burst of wind, which we'll show you a map for in a moment. And then that rain spreads in, not only across the North Island, but it feeds back down into Takaka and Nelson. So obviously, people in Takaka, Nelson, Wellington, Kapiti Coast, and parts of Marlborough and surrounding areas don't want much more rain. So if you need to find out how much rain you've got, please, or got coming, please head to ruralweather.co.nz or Weather Watch. Rural weather is just a bit more detailed, and it will show you your hyper-local rainfall totals. The good news is they aren't as big as they've been. So it might still cause a few slips because the ground's so wet, but we don't expect major flooding or anything like that as a result of this system coming through. And over in Australia, there are those showers, the cooler southerly carries on. So that windy weather later on Thursday, this is at 6 o'clock Thursday evening. What you're seeing here is gusts to gale force, just on the coastline from about the Bay of Islands to Whangarei, down to about Whangapuroa, north of Auckland. As you get into Auckland, the gusts are only around 50 to 60, 70 k's an hour. And I say only, but they're going to be quite isolated, and we're not really expecting too many problems because the winds are going to tilt more northerly. But there is a chance of some blustery winds in the very north of New Zealand as we go through Thursday afternoon and evening, and then it eases back again quite quickly. And you can see why, because on this map here for Friday, the low rolls in and just falls apart. The winds turn westerly in the north or northwesterly, and around Takaka and Nelson, here's the good news. As those winds turn around southeasterly, that's a dry direction for you. So the totals lift up around Banks Peninsula northwards up to about Kaikoura and southern parts of Wairarapa. That's another part of New Zealand that probably doesn't want more rain, but the good news is it's not a huge amount for you. And dry pretty much right across Australia. So as we head in towards or go into the weekend here on Saturday, you start to see, first of all, why Queensland's getting some of that wet weather. You can see the easterlies up here, and they go all the way from, right out east, past Samoa, Fiji, Vanuatu, straight into Queensland. So that's the reason why it's going to be quite mild and a little bit wet and more humid than it's been with that southerly coming up for the next couple of days. Over in New Zealand, southerlies now arrive. So that wintry southerly that was over in Australia now moves into New Zealand. Temperatures start to drop and showers spread up the eastern side of the North Island. On Sunday, that carries on. High pressure rolls in. We've got easterlies carrying on for some parts of the south, but they're more southeasterly for the North Island. So showery kind of cooler weather this weekend along that eastern side of New Zealand. And over in Australia, the easterlies carry on to the north here, maybe one or two over the weekend around Sydney and other coastal parts of New South Wales. Elsewhere, it's mostly dry, and now you've got a northerly wind coming down. So next week kicks off with changeable weather in the southeastern corner of Australia, another colder southerly change and a cold front coming in there with more rain, and in fact there could be a few snow flurries again when that colder change comes in. Won't be huge amounts though. And over in the New Zealand area on Monday, that high moves further out to the east. You've still got a showery sou'easter along the North Islands coastline up to about Gisborne, and maybe even still clipping up there around the Bay of Islands and Whangarei, and maybe 1 or 2 showers on the west coast. But actually most places are dry as we kick off next week, and then we'll have that system eventually coming over to us. So nothing too dramatic really on the weather maps just yet, but some severe weather possible around New Zealand over the next 48 hours. That's all from me. We'll see you again tomorrow with our next update.